very much. So companies are currently globally investing billions of dollars into AI, but actually quite few companies are reporting a return on investment. So I'll tell you today what I think are the sort of most typical stumbling blocks in AI initiatives, and I'll give you a framework for tackling these issues. So I'm not, as you heard, I'm not a data scientist. I'm not a data engineer. I'm not even a computer scientist. I'm a Master of Science in Economics. I'm a business person. Operations research, if it's typically a field that people don't really know what it is, it's a lot to do with mathematical modeling of real-world problems and stochastic optimization. So trying to solve these so-called vicious problems that are not easy to solve by brute force iterating every possible solution, but instead you have to use random elements in the search. This is what I studied, and when I stumbled across AI a couple of years ago in my previous job at Nordea, I found myself in the field of AI, and I just immediately fell in love with it because it just somehow made sense to me. Because I've studied all that stuff that's under the bonnet, it just wasn't called AI when I was studying it. So I don't write code, I don't develop the solutions, but I do the concept. Like I understand the value, I model the problem and the constraints, and then I get my lovely data scientists to work with me to make it a reality. So yes, I've worked for Solita for just over 7 months, so I'm quite new still to Solita. Before then, I worked at Nordea for 5 years, developing AI solutions among other digital solutions, and before then I was in London as a management consultant for 9 years. So I've seen lots of different sides to building software solutions, and all of that is helping me today in my current role. So I actually always encourage people to be quite brave and like throw themselves into new things and learn a broad range of things because it's all useful. Everything that you know is useful to what you do. So let's talk about what's happening on the market of AI. You all know this. For several years now, this has been the message from the market. We have data, we have lots of data and more of it all the time as everything is becoming more digital. So we have the raw material to work with. Plus we have really good algorithms. Well, we've had really good algorithms since about the 60s. But now we have the raw material to work with. And previously the problem has been that we haven't had enough computing power and we haven't had enough storage space and we also haven't had enough data. Now we have it all. We have the cloud technologies, we have all the computing power that we can want, and we have fairly cheap storage space for all that data. So that should, in theory, give us huge potential. Where's my pointer? I don't know. We should have huge potential for AI to deliver business benefit. What's happening then? This is the sad figure that Gartner predicts for next year. Still, next year, 85% of AI initiatives will fail to deliver on their promises to business. This is really sad. It corresponds with my experience of what I've seen on the market. And there are various reasons to it. I'll come to my view on what the reasons are. And like, don't get this wrong. It doesn't mean that 85% of initiatives will never go into production. That's not what we're saying. We're saying 85% of these initiatives are not delivering the benefit that we promise to the people funding them. What does this cause then? Well, this causes the fact that we don't get more funding because we're disappointing the business. So what happens then? This is my view on what are the typical stumbling blocks on your road. From you start somewhere and you have a goal in mind, what can happen along your path to stop your vision of becoming the reality? Well, first of all, a lot of companies don't have a vision. They don't really know, well, here's this fantastic thing called AI, but what can we really do with it? How can it help us and our company? What value is in it for us? I think this is largely because people don't understand the technology. Katarina was talking about the elephant in the room. It applies here very much. There's not enough knowledge and understanding about what AI actually is, what are the realistic possibilities that it can give, but also what are the limitations. The problem with the vision is twofold. On one hand, if we don't understand the realistic possibilities of AI, then we cannot come up with any use cases. We can't come up with a use for the technology. On the other hand, if we have really hyped up expectations on what AI is, this magic machine, it can do these weird and fantastic things, then that's also not a healthy place to start, because then you set your visions like completely unrealistic. You're aiming for the moon when you should be thinking about, the next town over. So that's a problem. Funding can be a problem specifically for AI because AI benefits are harder to quantify. You know this, right? I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But this is a problem. Traditional IT is much easier to quantify, the benefit of it. AI, not so much. You have to take a leap of faith. And you have to get a little bit creative, actually. And you have to look at the value for customers and the value for the business, maybe the value for environment, or whatever factors you have. But it's not trivial to model that and to quantify that. However, you have to do that to get the funding. Everyone, without exception, runs into data issues. I suspect even Spotify and Google run into data issues every now and again. Certainly all companies that were established before the age of data and digital. Data is old, it's broken, it's unreliable, it's in the wrong place, it's in the wrong format. We can't get it real time. You name it, there's always problems with data. As an example, in my previous role at Nordea, I started bringing these AI solutions, intelligent automation, into the remote customer experience sphere. And we started building virtual assistants. And we knew we needed data to train those virtual assistants, and we knew we had the data. We had 2 years worth of chat transcripts in the company. Nordea had those. It took me 3 months to get the data to my team because it was in a really inaccessible format. It was on a platform that wasn't very collaborative. It was production data, which I wasn't allowed to see, so we had to have it anonymized. And it was a big hassle, and we had to call a lot of personal favors. But we got it in the end. But just rest assured, you're always going to struggle with the data. Most companies have a skill gap. Like I said, there's not a good enough general level of understanding about AI, but also there's not enough deep experts in it either, I don't think. So companies here have to make decisions. Are you going to educate? Are you going to hire? Are you going to outsource? Or are you going to partner with someone? But typically you have to try to figure out a way to fill that skill gap one way or another. This is a really important point, what I call the proof of concept trap. This is where my sort of gut feel was that almost 80% of AI initiatives fall into the proof of concept trap. This happens when you set out to do a proof of concept, when that's your entire goal, when you start doing something with AI and you're just thinking to the proof of concept. Then you invariably find yourself with a proof of concept that is not viable in production for very fundamental reasons. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about how can you try to avoid that trap. But this is a significant issue. And I'll be a little bit provocative and I'll say that anyone can do a proof of concept. That's the easy part. The hard part is putting it into production. An even harder part, perhaps, is getting people to use it, to adopt it, to embrace it, and to love it. Lack of human insight and lack of business insight. Lack of design. Design in one word. And I'll talk to you a lot about design because it's super important. So you might have put your solution into production, and then a year later you find out that actually, hold on, nobody's using it. What happened? And finally, the very sort of specific thing to AI is the sad bot or sad neglected piece of machine learning code that was forgotten about. That's dangerous. This is dangerous. So if you're implementing AI, particularly machine learning, you can never forget about it. AI lives somewhere between humanity and traditional IT. You wouldn't hire a person and put them somewhere, give them a desk, and then just forget about them, right? You can't do that with AI either. You have to train, validate, see how it's doing. So, lots of problems. What can you do about it? I have a suggestion. This super simple framework We use this a lot actually with my colleagues when we help our customers become data-driven, get value from their data. We use this framework to open their minds to all the other things that there are to think about besides data, because it isn't about data, it isn't about AI, and it isn't about technology. It's about all these things. This is a funny sort of a puzzle because we start from the middle piece. We like to be a bit different. So we always start with the vision and objectives. It's really crucially important to be able to formulate a clear vision and communicate a clear vision. Tell people simply, what are you out to achieve? Pictures work really well. I recommend pictures. This is one that we drew for one of our customers on how they could utilize data from different sources to create a superior customer experience. Another crucial factor is you need to have a vision that supports strategy. You don't want to do AI for the sake of doing AI. Yes? You don't just want to make a fancy little bot somewhere because the company wanted a bot. That doesn't make any sense. You need to understand, how does it support your strategy? What are the benefits that you will get from this solution? And communicate that clearly. This is how you get funding, by the way. Skills is, to me, the second most important thing. And I talk a lot about skills to do with AI. This is to do with the not being able to set a vision if you don't have enough skills. This is also about realizing that vision. This spans all the way through your AI initiative. You need to have skills. What's happening right now in the market fairly often is we have companies that want to do something with AI and they have lots of data and they think, well, there's going to be value in my data. What can I do with it? Let's hire data scientists. Yes. Yes, I have the answer. So now I have my data scientists over there. And my deep business domain experts are over there. Now, how are these data scientists who are sitting over here supposed to know what they're supposed to dig out from the data? And on the other hand, how are these deep domain experts sitting over here? How are they supposed to know what the technology is capable of, what the data is capable of? That doesn't work. But that's what's happening on the market right now. So you need to bring them together somehow, and there's no simple answer of how. You just need to figure out how it works in your company, but you need to bring these together. Also, to do with just talking about skills in general, AI skills belong for everybody. Just to ask you a question, who here has done the online course called Elements of AI? Yes, I'm seeing some hands. Excellent. Now, I recommend that to everyone. 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 Elements of AI. Google it if you haven't come across it before. I think it might even be available in Swedish these days, certainly English and Finnish. Everyone should know that much about AI, so I recommend it to everyone. Then we come to leadership. One of the problems was, again, the vision, not really knowing what to do with it, and the sort of difficulty of getting the funding. If there was one single most important success factor for your AI initiative, I would say it's executive support. Ensure you have executive support. You'll have management and you'll have leadership. Management ensures you're doing things the right way, the way they need to be done in that company. Leadership is guiding you through the fog when you get stuck. And it has to come from the very top. That is a crucial success factor. Ways of working. How will you then bring it to life? How will you build this solution? I am a big advocate of actually this Gartner model, combining design thinking to validate that you're doing the right things. Does somebody want what you're out to build? This is where you ask why. This is where you go close to the customer and understand their reality. You go close to your employee and understand their reality. How are you changing that reality through your solution? Does somebody want it? Lean and agile, of course, lean just meaning that you do the minimum possible increment at a time to validate that you're going in the right direction, and agile means that you're doing it quickly. I'm not advocating any particular model, like everyone must do safe. That's not how it works. It's a mindset. The one thing I don't like about this Gartner model is how it has design thinking here, and then it almost like stops, and then you go into lean and agile. I don't believe in that. I believe in design going all the way through. I'll come back to this topic. Another thing about ways of working, I might be getting into the sort of la-la land, no one has this, but ideally, if I could have anything when I'm building my AI solutions, if I could have anything at all, I would have a cross-functional team. A few speakers today have talked about that. That's really crucially important. Cross-functional team with end-to-end responsibility and mandate. That's when magic happens. But unfortunately, this is not the reality in most companies as far as I've seen. But aim for this. If you have this, you're incredibly lucky. Yes, then we can't talk about AI without talking about data. The proof of concept trap that I mentioned is to do with the fact that when we do AI proof of concepts, we're looking at that tiny little box in the middle. That's the machine learning model. That's the algorithm. But what about everything else that goes around it? Your data pipelines, your feature engineering, cleaning up the data, validating everything. This is a massive job, and this is why there's a million miles between a proof of concept and a production implementation. Just being aware of this from day one is valuable. Technology, unfortunately, the market looks like this. There's tons of vendors, tons of open source components, there's middleware, there's integrations, there's this and that and the other, and you can get so easily lost in this jungle. What you need to do with technology is build a sustainable foundation. What I mean by that is that you want to build a flexible foundation, a scalable foundation. Don't go into a vendor lock if you can avoid it. And no one can know all of these technologies, so use an external partner if you're doing a vendor selection and you find yourself a little iffy on how to figure out the right one for you, because we all get lost in this jungle. Algorithms. I love algorithms. Love them. But algorithms are tools, and data is the ingredients. Anyone can get tools. Open source algorithms are out there for everyone to use. But it's not that simple. This is where data scientists do their magic. This is where you find the correct algorithm for that data and for that use case. And you iterate, and you validate, and you never stop iterating and validating. You don't stop at the feasibility study, you don't stop at the pilot, you don't stop at the production implementation, you keep it going in production to not fall into that neglected AI issue. Last two boxes, really important, back to sort of softer values. Organization, I'm talking about business design. So design is not about user interface. What does it look like? It's not even about user experience. It's about customer experience, employee experience, and business design. So this solution that you're building, how will it fit into your business processes? What's changing? Whose roles are changing? Are you implementing new roles? Do you need new skills? How will you train those people? How will you manage that change? How will you bring these solutions as part of your organizational DNA? So typically when we talk about AI solutions, we talk about producing AI. This is about consuming AI. Who's consuming the results of the solution? Has to be designed, it doesn't just happen. Lastly, super important part is the culture. How we do things here. Or rather, I like this definition of culture, what people do when nobody's looking. It's very telling of culture. AI will be here, it's coming. It's no point pretending that it doesn't impact you, it will impact all of us. So what you can do is you can be empathetic towards this fear and doubt. You can listen to people, and you can try to figure out a way to navigate AI into your organization so that humans and AI can work together. Because that's where I strongly believe the world is going, and that's where I think it should go. So we can help that transition along. Two key takeaways, my last two slides. The puzzle really should be in the background of this slide. It's not about AI. I used to irritate a lot of data scientists by saying that machine learning alone is useless. I stand by that. Machine learning alone is useless. You need all those other pieces of the puzzle to create value that lasts for a long time. And finally, this sort of like, if there was one secret sauce to how to make this happen, it's this. It's the cross-functional team that so many of us on the stage today have talked about. It's about, these initiatives need to be owned by the business because they can answer the question of, should we do this? Is it viable? Technology, obviously, the crucial enabler. Can we do this? Is it feasible? And the glue for everything, the magic, is the design. Is it desirable? Do they want it? That's the question. So do this if you can. That's all from me. I'm really happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.